Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another marvelous episode of Nuts and Bolts. I almost channeled Richie Benno there. Marvelous.
I do wonder what the demographics of our audience are and how many of them know the good old Richie Benno.
It's interesting because it's like esports is a little bit of a young person's game. We'll say that. Like when your career is done and dusted by early to mid 20s, you know, it is.
Yes.
It does kind of attract some younger crowds, but I hope that anybody in Australia and New Zealand as well would know the wonderful Richie Benno and his marvelous cricket commentary work in the 90s into the 2000s there. So not with us anymore, unfortunately, but always a pleasure. Like it's a funny thing because I was thinking the other day, and this is completely off topic, but I want to get this off my chest because
you've got to do it.
That's right, because I'm a big fan of the 12th Man. And for those who don't know, the 12th Man is a guy called Billy Birmingham who basically made a career out of impersonating the voices of cricket commentators. And for a while there, these cricket commentators had these really distinctive voices. And it was just done really well. But I feel like for a while we haven't had those distinctive voices. They've just been voices. And it occurred to me the other day as well, like the last couple of prime ministers that we've had haven't had it. And then I heard Anthony Albanese speak, who's the current Prime Minister of Australia. And I went, that's a voice ripe for parody. Why has nobody done that yet?
I don't know. We don't seem to have those comedy shows that we used to have, like the Full Frontal and the
Fast Forward, and we
Fast Forward and stuff like that did all those impersonations.
We used to, they tried to bring it back for a while. I'm trying to remember the show. I want to say, no, it wasn't Comedy Company, was the 80s, I think, but it was something along those lines. But anyway, that's enough of reminiscing. We are here to talk esports. Although I do kind of wonder what Richie Benno would think of esports at times, and whether he would throw in some marvelous every now and then. But
I think he would. He would have to. It's too marvelous not to.
That's right. So let's get into it, because we're getting to the very, very pointy end of the World of Tanks ANZ Premier League season here. Season 5, almost done. There's only one more game left to go. That's the grand final. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because the B-League Grand Final was played last Friday night as the curtain raiser to the consolidation final for the Premier League. So, and honestly, I was a little bit worried about this, because the Badgers didn't finish the season too strongly. And the Hellcats have had a much improved season. They finished second. They beat the Fireflies in the first round to go straight into the grand final there. But the Badgers came out really aggressively in the first game and took it very quickly. And the Hellcats didn't look like they had a response. But I tell you what, they responded in the rest of the games, because after that very, very quick win by the Badgers, Hellcats didn't give them another game. Hellcats came back. They won the season 4 ANZ B-League Grand Final 5-1. So well done to the Hellcats on getting that.
That's a dominant win there for them.
It really was. And I've been very impressed with the Hellcats this season, because I'm pretty sure they finished last in last season. So they've come from last to first, and they're a much improved team, and they definitely deserve the win that they've gotten here and the championship win. So congratulations to the Hellcats on grabbing that championship right there. The other game that happened that night, though, Natty, and one that you might not be so happy with, was between the Scorpions and the Action X. So Adelaide Action X versus the South Sydney Scorpions in the consolidation final. The winner of this one would go to verse the Sentinels in the LAN Grand Final at Fortress Melbourne on the 26th of November. Once again, Scorpions came out to play. They were there. They seemed to have an answer to everything that Action X tried, and And they tried a few different things, but unfortunately wasn't enough. Scorpions ended up defeating the Action X 4-0 there. So that's an end to the Action X's first finals campaign. But I mean, they did take the win in the first week, so that's really good. And they had a really good run. I feel like they hit their stride at the right time of season. It's just that Scorpions are better. And honestly, I think we've got the two best teams in the league in the grand final.
Yeah, I completely agree. However devastated I am, we've got the result I think everybody wanted to see from the most competitive standpoint.
Yeah, but it's still, well, see, I'm not sure about that though, because there's only been one team. Sorry, let me correct that. There has been two teams that have beaten the Sentinels this year, because the Scorpions did take a tiebreaker win off them, but the Action X beat them both times in regular season. So it could be that CJ and the Action X just have the number of the Sentinels, and yeah, just wondering what might have been had the Action X gotten into the grand final against the Sentinels there. But instead, we have the rematch of the season 4 grand final between the Scorpions and the Sentinels. So
sometimes you lose the rock, paper, scissors. It just doesn't go your way.
Well, that's it. And that's an interesting thing that I'll touch on in a bit, because I do want to have a bit of a chat about how that game might turn out, that grand final. But just to recap the results there, the Hellcats in a win 5-1 against the Badgers to clinch the season 4 ANZBL Grand Final there. The reason that's gone to 5 games, is that the grand final's a best of 9. So the grand final at Fortress Melbourne will also be a best of 9 series, whereas the consolidation final and the upper and lower bracket finals are best of 7. So that's why the Scorpions were able to do it in 4 matches against the Action X there. So let's have a quick look at the fantasy. Let's have a look at the B League fantasy first. So Boz had an amazing game for the Hellcats. Like, the fact that he was almost 300 points above his nearest competitor is just crazy. And definitely one to have a look at come next season, and keep an eye on him. It'll also be interesting to see how many of these players end up nominating for the draft for the Premier League, because for Premier League, you need to have at least a season of B League under your belt, or have played Premier League before. So you never know. We might see a few of these people in Premier League. I know some of the guys just like playing B League because, it is the better league. It's a bit more fun league, a bit more unpredictable. So like it has its moments, and there's a case for that as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these people moving up to the Premier League.
I mean, gotta have our eyes on Brave Sir Robin. I think he's just for the name itself, he's got to get up to the Premier League with a name like that.
That's it. And he did have a good game. With the badge, with how the Badgers went after that first game. He did have a really good game. He was in positions to see stuff, so it was good to see him making the Fantasy League Team of the Week there. But I think interestingly there, Boz for the Hellcats, 584 Fantasy League points, picked by nobody.
I was just looking at that. How did nobody pick him? Just absolute wild card for fantasy, obviously.
Yeah, he just popped off. Like, I don't think he's. In fact, let me just check how much he's been picked through the season, if he's been picked at all. Boz has been picked by 11% of people throughout the season. So not the lowest amount, but still it's on the lower side. And the fact that nobody picked him. In fairness, though, like when it comes down to the two teams and you're picking your fantasy league, especially for the B League, because the B League still had the restriction of 2 players per team. So I think 90% of people would have been picking Bad Boy Bubbles for one. He didn't play. He didn't play in the final, so there was no points at all for anybody to pick Bad Boy Bubbles. I know because I picked him.
Oh no!
So and Boz just popped off he was in the right spots to get the kills and get the damage, and yeah, he flat out deserved that top spot there. So great to see that. And in the Premier League fantasy team, so once again, because you've only got 2 teams to pick from, it gets a bit easier because this was actually my lineup, and it shows you, it kind of shows you how predictable it was, I guess, because 3 other people also picked that exact same lineup. So we ended up sharing the accolades that week. So, but yeah, look, it's no surprise when you've got a team that goes 4-0 in a final. JT, Raspberry, and Aussie from the Scorpions. JT especially had a banger day out there, and Raspberry, if he's not highest star pick next season, I think that's a little bit of an outrage there, because he's definitely more than a 2-star player these days. And of course, Dongalord and CJ representing the Action X there too. So congrats to those people that were on the team of the week right there. So moving on to next round's matches. So we are down to the grand final between the North Sydney Sentinels, and I've just realised I've put the wrong photo in here.
That's
okay. But yeah, nobody probably would have noticed unless I said something. But yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yes, North and South Sydney battling it out.
It's and look, I'm still leaning towards the Sentinels as the one that I think will win, but this season at least, the Scorpions have looked good against them. So, like I said, regular season the teams meet twice. The Sentinels won in round 3, 3-1 against the Scorpions, and the Scorpions took the tiebreaker win. And then they met in the first round of the finals, which the Sentinels won 4-2. But in that, they were going game for game until they got to the third map, and that's where the Sentinels won both games on Sand River to send them through to the grand final. So I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, but I still think it's going to come out on the Sentinel side. I would love to see the Scorpions victory. I think 3 wins is enough for 3 wins is enough for the Sentinels for now. Let somebody else have a turn, you Grand Buggers.
Well, maybe the Scorpions, caught up with Action X and said, give me your tips. We want to try and take down the Sentinels.
That's it.
Maybe they'll have some unique strats coming into the grand final.
Fingers crossed. One can only hope, because that will be, like I said, it's like the Sentinels they're the favourites for the reason. You see their core lineup. I was going through and doing some math the other day. There's 4 players, I think, that have played 100% of the matches that their team has been available for. One was Twit from the Panthers, one was Whippet from the Matildas, and then there was Returned and Rainbow from the Sentinels. So both of them, like when you've got a solid lineup like that, and both of those players are extremely good. Like I think in terms of average points, like Returned was the best player in the fantasy league this season, and I'm just trying to see where Rainbow was top 20. So it's still those 2 players being decent, and the fact that there are other lineups with Dell, Cindy, and it's going to escape me now who the other one is. Wymo. How can I forget Wymo? That mustache. And with pinch hitting by Rowendi. So Rowendi played a few games this season as well. But also, interestingly, they've got a 7th player that didn't play any games at all. So they had 2 players that played 100% of the games and 1 player that played 0%.
Wow.
Yeah. And they've still managed to get there. So compare that to the Scorpions, where they've spread it out a little bit more. So even the player that played the least amount of games for them still played 40% of the games. So they haven't been afraid to change the lineup if things if they've got a player that can play a role for them that they need to. So it's worked for them. They finished first. I think they had one outright loss and a tiebreaker loss as well, I think, from memory. So one outright loss and one tiebreaker loss. So it's they're in here for a reason as well. They finished top for a reason, and it's going to be amazing to see it. And especially if you're in Melbourne and can get to Fortress Melbourne for the grand final on the 26th. Tickets are available now if you want to go and grab one. So there's 3 different levels of tickets. There's a free one. It's just a ticketed event, so you need to go get a ticket, but you can get one for free. There's one that's about $11 or $12 from memory that gets you onto the drinks tab. And then there's one for $22, which gets you on the drinks tab, gets you something to eat, and gets you some in-game items as well. Plus $10 from the sale of every ticket goes to Movember.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you're in Melbourne, definitely get down and have a look at that. Can definitely recommend. I went to the season 4 grand final, and it is definitely an event that you want to go to. So
I'm really excited and really sad that you can't be there for the final this time around.
I've been thinking very hard about it, but it was expensive to go over there, and because I was getting red-eye flights, like I flew out after work on a Friday and got into Melbourne at like midnight, and luckily I could sleep in a fair bit, but then my flight on Sunday was at 7 a.m, so I had to be up at like 4 in the morning. I may as well have not gone to bed, to be honest. But,
yes.
But yeah, it's a hard slog, so I don't think I will be doing that this season. But plan for next year. But other esports events that's going on. So the IEM Rio 2022 Masters. Sorry, Intel Extreme Masters is IEM. It's a major. That's what the word I was looking for. Rio Major 2022 for IEM happened over the weekend for CSGO. And we do have a winner from that, which is the Outsiders. So congratulations to them. They pick up the $500,000 US in prize money. So it's not small money there to get into that, and also qualify for
cool.
IEM. And we even looked up how to pronounce this, and I've forgotten. So I think it's Katowice.
No, it depends. I was actually looking because there's an American and a British pronunciation. So the American one is Katowice, and the British pronunciation is Katowice. Anyway, we don't know how to say it properly.
Somewhere in Poland.
It's the city in Poland.
Yeah. So the Outsiders get qualify for that, as well as Blast Premier Final 2022. So that's really cool for them. They also pick up 4,000 Blast Premier points, and the team that they defeated, Heroic, also pick up 2,000 Blast Premier points. So I'm guessing that contributes to their standings and how many points they need to get to get into that competition. So as it stands, the Outsiders actually won 2-0. So the first game was 16-12. So, Heroic were quite competitive there. But then the second game was 16-5 in favour of the Outsiders. So definitely Outsiders put on the gas there and went for it. Now, because this happened at PAX. I remember this going off. Yeah. Greyhound Gaming, who the OCE team qualified for this event as well. So for those that were looking at how they did, unfortunately they got knocked out in the first round, ended up finishing 12th in the Challenger stage, which honestly is not a bad result, I don't think, for an OCE team. They did pick up a game at least, so they were played 4 games and won 1. So I think that's quite good, considering they sort of came from nowhere, I think, to qualify at PAX.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this quite a lot before. When we actually have teams being able to go to a land final somewhere, that they bring all that experience back to the league, and tends to result in better results for everybody next time. So
Yeah,
um,
that's it.
yeah, it's a shame they couldn't do better this time, but still well done, and they didn't have to run around the pool table with their undies around their legs.
That's right. And I think looking at it, I think they beat Cloud9. So like Cloud9's a pretty they beat Cloud9. So that's a pretty big scalp to be taking home.
Oh, it's always nice to beat an NA team. I have to say.
Yeah.
Not that I have any region rivalry there, but
no, not when they seem to steal most of our players.
Yes, they do, jerks.
But yeah, so that was the IEM Rio Major 2022 there. So it's great to see those results there. And one that's happening at the moment is the Valorant Game Changers Championship is kicked off yesterday, I think. Sorry, just looking at the dates. Yesterday.
Yeah, on the 15th.
So the is going on. We'll finish up over this coming weekend. 3 games have been played at the moment. So there's a couple of upper bracket quarterfinals and one semi-final has been played. G2 Gozen is already into the upper bracket final, so they're one step away from a grand final appearance, which is pretty cool, I think. And Cloud9 Cloud9 White, I'm not sure if there's a difference between it, or if they put 2 teams, or if they have 2 Valorant teams, I'm not sure, but Cloud White's what they're going by. KRU Fem and X10 Sapphire are also in the lower bracket as well, waiting to play each other to see who progresses through that lower bracket there. So that's going to be cool. And I do like, we were talking before, because like the IEM format was, I think it's called Swiss.
Yeah, you were saying it was a Swiss, but it looked a bit unusual.
Yeah, it was. Look, it's not hard to understand, but it's kind of is. Yeah, it's the Swiss format was interesting, but this one is a double elimination, and I got to say, I really like the double eliminations. It just means that you have to lose twice to be knocked out of the tournament. So it means that whoever goes through the upper bracket and gets into the grand final has to be beaten twice in that grand final to lose. So it just, I think it makes things a little bit fairer.
Yeah, it definitely eliminates that we just had an off game kind of vibe that tends to come out when you just have the single match brackets sometimes.
Yeah, that's it. Cool. But that's happening now. That'll be happening over the weekend. I'm just having a look. In just under 12 hours, the next game will be happening for the Valorant Game Changers series there. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Another one that's coming up, TFT Dragonlance Championship.
Oh, I'm super excited for this. I think everybody who listens to the podcast knows TFT is my game. So that's coming up over the weekend. They have 4 days of play, and we do have 2 OC representatives in the championships, which is super exciting. So we're going to be looking at Tamara, and Huey to follow throughout the 4 days to see how they go.
Nice. Good luck to them, because always keen to see how our players do, especially in like TFT being a single player game. Like I feel like we almost get that it's the playing field's a little bit more even when it's like you still have to come up with the strats and the builds that you're going to do, but I don't know, it just seems kind of more balanced, more level playing field, I think, especially when you've got the random elements of what's coming up as well.
Yeah, I was having this discussion around sports in general. I've always been a bit more of a fan of sports where it's like the individual competing. So, MMA as an example versus football or whatever it might be. So it's a really good chance to get behind an individual, which is cool.
Nice. And of course, coming up, you may have seen there's a little event called the Game Awards. So they normally they've got lots of different categories for games, like Game of the Year and a whole heap of other sort of bits in there. But they do have some esports categories. So there is Best Esports Event, which is for Evo 2022, the 2022 League of Legends World Championships, as well as the MSI made it in as well. PGL Major Antwerp 2022 and Valorant Champions 2022. And I've got to say, like, having sat there through the whole presentation of the League of Legends Worlds, like, that was just, it was so good.
I think somebody brought to my attention the other day that generally the budget is more than the budget that they spend on WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
They always bring it, especially with all of like their what do they call it, the holograms and things like that, making it really exciting and a real spectacular. So and then the games on top of that, which is the best players in the world playing against each other. Can't go wrong.
That's it. And there's also a category for Best Esports Game, which is between CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, Rocket League, and Valorant. So when I looked at this, I went, you know what? I actually think in terms of the Best Esports Game, Rocket League would get my vote. Just because I think... Like, if you just said to me Best Esports Game, I would have gone for that one because it's easy to understand. It's still exciting. I was watching, I can't remember, there was some tournament going on. It was on Twitch. I had it on the background. And it was just, super exciting. But then there's the qualifier on this particular award that's Best Esports Game for the game that has delivered the best overall esports experience to players, inclusive of tournaments, community support, and content updates, irrespective of genre or platform. So this one, like, when you put that qualifier on it, that makes it a little bit harder to pick.
Yeah, and we were having this chat a little bit before about how we both have a preference for industry-based awards where you have people in the industry voting. And something like this where you're saying you want a game that's, the most competitive and has been the best for players, you think, I don't know, to me it seems like you're wanting the opinion of the esports players, the professionals that are on these teams that are competing in these tournaments. So it would make sense to be asking them, not me who thinks that people had a good experience, but then if I'm not following the news, I might not find out that backstage there are all these problems, or or you
like just might not find out at all.
Exactly.
There's big contracts and NDAs. You just go, oh, cool. Nobody said anything about that happened.
Yeah. I don't want to push the rumor mill. There was an event recently that if you go to .esports or whatever, you saw there were lots of players complaining about what was going on at the LAN event, and most people aren't going to know about that.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting what they're asking for the general audience to provide. I don't think they're necessarily the best people to provide that. I do really love People's Choice Awards, though. Don't get me wrong. Like there should be what the fans think the best game is as well.
That's right. Cool. But there's also a couple more categories. Best Esports Athlete, and we've got Chovy, Faker from League of Legends, Carrigan and Simple from CSGO, and also Yay from Valorant too. So you can vote for who you want there. I don't know. I feel like the League fans might get in on Faker there. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially after the Worlds series there. Like, the storyline for him was there, and couldn't quite cap it off. It went to Deft instead, but yeah, no, I feel like he's probably gonna take that one home. I think
so.
Yeah. And then there's also Best Esports Team, We've got FaZe Clan for CSGO, Gen G for League of Legends, LA Thieves, Call of Duty, Loud for Valorant, from our Brazilian counterparts there. But there's one that I am leaving to last because they're not an OCE team, but they're full of OCE players, and that's Dark Zero Esports for Apex Legends. So yeah, they play in the States, but they're three Aussie guys, so why wouldn't we want to back them?
Darn NA stealing our players. Completely agree. If anybody's taking the time out to vote, definitely put a vote in for Dark Zero. We've got to support our Aussie guys there.
And that's it. And the last category, best esports coach. I speak real good sometimes. We have Blade and Robban from CSGO. Bizka, I'm gonna say. I don't know.
Gaming handles are so hard.
Bizka and Doom Bros from Valorant, and Score from League of Legends. So you can vote on who you think is the best coach there. But yeah, you kind of touched on it there a little bit. And like when you're talking about something like the Game Awards, and we discussed this on the weekly show last night, because it's, even though this is a pre-record, I know that we're going to be talking about it because we are. It's a big thing. You can't not talk about it. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing, especially I feel when it comes to the Game Awards. It just sort of seem to pop up and go, "Hey, cool, we're here, we're doing stuff," and just manage to get traction somehow. So this has become the standard. But I must admit, because I do not like fan voted stuff when it comes to awards. I think industry awards are much better because they're people that are in the industry and know the ins and outs of the industry. So I feel like this is a big thing to just, and it's something that feels messy for me and probably not really suited to a show about esports, but the Game Awards in particular just feels like it's there to sell ad space.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't everything in life has to sell ad space?
I guess,
that's me being very.
I wish it wasn't so open about it. I guess because, they get in and they do the awards and they just quickly blast through them and go, "Cool, here's a trailer for the next game," and go, "I wonder how much that company paid to get their game in there," and stuff like that. It's just
there was all the, I don't want to say drama, but all the issues last year with some of the things that were going on in the industry, and Jeff Keighley, the person who is behind the Game Awards, making a stand and saying, "No, we will not accept advertisements from, these particular companies." And that really, I think, brought it to light for a lot of people that's a large part of why the awards exist, just to advertise. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, and I think that if you're saying, fan favorite, blah, if it is a popularity contest, that's fine. That's how you sell it, but don't try and sell it as, which team definitely was the best competitively in their league, because you want the statisticians coming out and doing their numbers, and you want the people in those industries, stepping forward and making those kinds of decisions. So, I'm happy for either. Just pick a lane. Absolutely, just make this popular awards.
And because they're so open about the advertising as well, you have to create an account and sign in to vote on the awards. And anytime, I don't like signing up for stuff to begin with. And every time I have to sign up for something, and especially with the way that the Game Awards are so heavily ad-based, I'm thinking that they're taking my data, they're basically selling me. And I'm going, nah, I don't really want to do that.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not going. I won't. But it is interesting seeing some of the stuff in there, and we've got some very interesting things that we would have talked about on the weekly show, particularly about it, given that we're focusing on the esports here, but just the rest of the awards in general. Yeah, they're interesting. So you should go watch that VOD if you didn't watch it live on Wednesday nights. There, bit of
Yeah.
cross promotion. There we go.
Look, I wonder how easy it is to set up a one-time email address
Oh, easy. You just go to like
and
Yahoo Mail or Gmail and set up another one. Actually,
oh,
because I
there's
actually
an actual website for trash emails, so you can set up an email account that
really?
expires in a day.
Really?
So you can sign up for things and then the email expires.
My
Not that we are encouraging people to fraudulently vote, but you know, the other side of that coin is if you don't want your data mined, then there's an avenue for you.
my boss from my day job has this method so that if he has to sign up for anything that he's not interested in, he has a pseudonym that he uses, and anytime anything comes addressed to that pseudonym, he knows it's basically spam.
Yeah.
So he ignores it, deletes it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just set up a filter for that to just automatically go to another folder. Delete.
That's it. Well, so there's something that you drew my attention to, Natty, and from the wacky and weird side of esports, and this one, like, I'm not quite sure how to get into it, but basically it's a web design contest.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of our fans out there would be familiar with Figma. So it's a design, essentially a design tool. So you click and drag elements around to design web pages. And so these competitors were given a challenge of pulling together a website design. The best design in 20 minutes would win. Which, you know, it's just interesting because they in their advertising they were, you know, quite loudly saying, yeah, the first esports web design tournament, and yeah, that always just brings up the question that Straight and I chat about is this esports though?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a competition that's on the internet, so I mean it earns its E, but
Yes.
Sport, yeah.
Well, you know, I think we associate, you know, gaming as well. You know, it's a key part of it, of an e-sport. You know, if you're taking people doing their professional jobs, which is what we were looking at with like the Excel competition, that was kind of borderline because they weren't necessarily doing things that would strictly be done as part of a job.
But yeah, that was more testing their knowledge of Excel. But this one, like, it's a very subjective thing too, though, with design, because I was reading up a little bit on how this goes. So like then there were four contestants, and they did like elimination style brackets and until they got to the end. But at the end, the audience voted on the design. So it's very subjective in what's the best design. And yeah, there once again there's design principles and stuff like that like according to those design principles one thing will be better than another, but like to have the audience vote on, oh, I like that one better, or I like this one better, I don't know, it kind of seems like a little bit of a cop out at the end.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think whoever put this together was a fantastic promo like vehicle for the software and these professionals as well that were involved. One thing I really enjoyed while I was watching it was that the people that were competing took quite different strategies. So one of the matches I was looking at, the person had laid out their whole template and had an idea of exactly what was going on every page. It kind of did something really quick on everything to get it all filled out, where the other person was just going, you know, more page by page and working out those elements as they went. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that really interests me in the competitive landscape of when you have a more of an abstract design style problem and how people approach it. I'm still not convinced this is esports, but I'm not sure how I can articulate that in a way that is clear to our audience listening at home.
Yeah, it does kind of seem more like a competition than esports, because it's, you know, I guess it's like the old argument between, you know, darts, is that an actual sport, and like they've done studies and stuff into it, and that, you know, they say the darts players' heartbeats get up around what what professional sports players are. So they go, yeah, I reckon that's a sport. But like for this, I think the interesting thing for me is that it was more like, because they gave each player time to pitch as well and go through this is our thought process. So it was, they both got the same brief. So they were both working towards the same thing. It was just how they would tackle things differently. But yeah, it kind of felt more like a pitch than an esports competition, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the weight of how big the digital component is important, which I think this definitely does tick that box. But yeah, for me, the gaming side of things isn't hit at all.
Yeah, and there's no like clear objectives. Like I feel there needs to be a clear objective and just like make the best design you can when design is subjective. Like it's not, you're not eliminating the enemy, you're not destroying a base, you're just
definitely not what do I say, not quantitative. It's definitely
that's it. That said though, like there was some prize money behind this, and it was Sergey who went on to win, and he took home $2,000 US. So like not bad for like an afternoon sort of work there on design, just being pulled in because he uses the Figma, is it? I've lost the
Figma
tool. Yeah. And even second place goes home with $750 as well. So, and that was Christina, who walked away with that. So congratulations to the people involved in that, and that took the win there. So we're almost done for today. Just one more thing I want to point out, because it's really, really cool. And I think that everybody should have one.
It is coming up to Christmas.
It is.
Got to start thinking about Christmas presents for your esports friends and family.
I'm not sure this will be ready by Christmas, but definitely my birthday's early next year, so I will definitely take one if someone wants to buy one for me. But Nerf has brought out its first League of Legends blaster, and it's Jinx Sawbone, and it looks really goddamn cool.
This is amazing. You were getting into the technical detail with me because you were the one that found this and talking about, how it's designed to fire three, what do they call them? Foam bullets?
Yeah, darts.
Is that this bullet the right word? Darts?
I would probably call them. I don't know that. Darts. Here we go. I'm reading like the news story about it, and it says darts. So yeah. It's like I have to tell a story, because there was a time. So you had a mate that lived north of Perth. And I would go up and visit him quite often. And one time I've gone up there, it's a semi-tropical area, and it was like a once in 10-year storm came down, washed roads away, couldn't get out of town, was stuck there for a bit. But there were shops there and whatnot. So me and my mate, we raided the local, there was a Target there at the time, and I think there was Toy World as well. So we raided there, and we've walked out with stupid amounts of Nerf guns. And like he's bought one of the big chain gun ones that run on the 6D cell batteries, and like I found a Nerf grenade. All right, so
wow.
And we went somewhere. There was like a hall with some tables in, and we've like put tables on their side as foxholes, and like had this pitched battle for 5 minutes, and then spent the next 3 hours finding where all the darts
picking up all
went.
the darts.
But so I do like my Nerf stuff, and just seeing this looks really cool. And yeah, it has 18 darts in there, but it fires them in lots of threes. The only thing I will say that's bad about this is that the photo is a digital render. So I don't think it's been made yet, which is a little bit sad, because I really want this. It's a really cool looking Nerf product.
Yeah, look, they have to bring it out now, right? They've brought it into the universe. It's part of the communal consciousness. It has to come.
They have to, yeah. Like it's so for those that aren't watching live on twitch.tv/GameOnOz, or know what Jinx's fishbone is, it's basically looks like a shark. And in its mouth, it's where you load up the darts, and yeah, it just looks really cool, and I want one.
Come on, Riot. Come on, Nerf.
We'll
Get your act together.
Send us one. We'll do a review of it, and yeah, we'll just have some fun with it. But anyway, but that's about it for us for Nuts and Bolts. I will end on just saying, don't forget that Goa is doing our Movember campaign at the moment as well. So if you've got any spare cash, please donate to our Tiltify link that will be going through the Twitch chat. Keep it if you're listening to this somewhere else, find us on Twitter at GameOnOz. We'll have it in a socials post there. So please donate some money if you can. We would very much love it. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next week.